Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Huge news, huge WNBA news, huge Indiana Fever news, huge Caitlin Clark fan news. Folks, as you can see here, announced by the Indiana Fever themselves, Kelsey Mitchell will be back. She will be returning to the Indiana Fever. They will be keeping their big three of Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell. This is a huge signing for the Indiana Fever. It takes a lot of pressure off of trying to find another star player. They do not need another star player. We're going to get into that in a moment because I also want to let you know about some other trade stuff. I was going to do a separate video, but I'll kind of go over some of it now. There's been a lot of recent news in the WNBA, but here you can see it on the Fever site themselves announcing this that they've re-signed Kelsey Mitchell. She will be returning. She had an absolute monster career year last year, over 19 points a game, almost 47% from the field. She was phenomenal as she got more and more comfortable with Caitlin Clark. She produced more and more. Her field goal percentage went up. She was knowing where to get to. She was not dropping passes she was dropping earlier in the season. She was making layups. I mean, look, Kelsey Mitchell as a player last year after a rough start, I cannot say more good things about her and how she played. Yeah, because of the style of play. Caveat, because I think you all know this, so no, I'm not ignoring it. She is that type of player where at times she's gonna overdo things. She's gonna overdo trying to create her own stuff. She's gonna not get rid of the ball when it gets into her hands. That is the little bit of drawback you get with all those positives. That's just the type of style of player that she is. But this is huge news for the Indiana Fever. I know a lot of people have been worried about not hearing any news. Who are they going to sign? Who are they going to bring in? They got to land this player. I've done videos, talking about players like Satu Sabali, who, by the way, and I said this in the last video about, the more I look into it, the more I talk about it, the more I think, you know what? It's not that big a deal if they don't get her because I don't want them giving up too much. People talked about packaging. I saw someone talking about Melissa Smith and Grace Berger and the Fever #1 pick to get Sabali for 1 year. That's absolutely insane. Never in a million years would I do that. I would not give up Grace Berger for Satu Sabali in this situation that you're looking at, okay? With her injury risk, her maybe not even playing in the WNBA, we don't necessarily know how that's going to go. And then on top of that, this being most likely a 1 year deal. Now, we also had this huge news yesterday. But again, this is why I say this takes a little bit of pressure off the Fever. Brittany Griner has signed with the Atlanta Dream. She has moved on from her long career in Phoenix, 10 years, I believe, moving into maybe even more, 11 years. I'm sorry, 10-time WNBA All-Star. And now she's going to move on and play for the Atlanta Dream. Yes, the Atlanta Dream, folks. Yes, Renee Montgomery, you are not like her. So be sure that you do not support the Atlanta Dream. Although I'm sure she'll be thrilled when Indiana Fever fans show up for their games in Atlanta. But yeah, so this is a huge move, but we are not done. Okay, this obviously leaves a hole in Phoenix that they need to fill. It fills a big hole for the Atlanta Dream. They had Tina Charles came out of retirement. Tina Charles could be something that the Indiana Fever could be looking at as a backup for Aaliyah Boston, but I'll probably do a deeper dive into that in another time because we also had this again, Phoenix Mercury. They made a lot of changes. It's a different team. Alyssa Thomas, folks, is moving on to the Phoenix Mercury. Natasha Cloud moving on from Phoenix to Connecticut. The entire package we've got Natasha Cloud, Rebecca Allen, and the number 12 overall pick all being shipped off to the Connecticut Sun in return to Alyssa Thomas and I believe Ty Harris also heading to Phoenix, Brittany Griner going to Atlanta. So massive changes, not just in the WNBA, because you're talking about stars changing teams, but clearly huge for the Phoenix Mercury now getting back to the Indiana Fever. What does this mean for them? 'Cause I know I see it already. I've seen a lot of panic in tweets and people DMing me and say, "Hey, the Fever haven't done anything. What's going on with the Fever? The Fever need to do stuff." Well, maybe. Here's what I'll say about the Fever. Let me rephrase that. Do they need to add depth? Yeah, absolutely, 100%. This team needs to add depth. All they've done so far is lose Temi Bentley. They still have Melissa Smith on this roster. They still have Christy Wallace on this roster. Victoria Saxton, we don't know. She's a question mark. From what I know of her in college, from the little bit of play I've seen from her in the WNBA, she's someone that's worth giving a look to. I know some people aren't because the only thing they know about Grace Berger is that she sat the bench this past year under Christy Sides, but I have no issues with Grace Berger being the backup point guard and even filling in for Kelsey Mitchell as well if you're looking at mostly a three-guard rotation. Erica Wheeler no longer here. I think everyone expected that. I've said that multiple times. They are not going to re-sign her. So I don't think Erica Wheeler is going to be back with so again, my point I was getting to that with depth. They need depth for sure. But again, folks, three all-stars. You've got your two guards, maybe the best guard tandem in the WNBA and one of the best centers in the WNBA. Although I think Aaliyah Boston might be better at the four, but that's a discussion for another day. They don't need would it be great if, say, Gabby Williams is like, "I wanna go to Indiana, and you need to trade me, Seattle," and no one else Gabby, doesn't wanna go anywhere else because as a core player, she has influence on that, and Indiana's like, "Well, we'll give you Christy Wallace," and Seattle's like, "Well, Gabby's not gonna play for us, we can't get anything else, let's do it." Alright, there you go. We'll take Gabby Williams for Christy Wallace, but my point being is they don't need to go out and get a superstar. They have 3 of them. They've got the three-headed monster. They've got guards who can run. They've got guards who can get to the basket. They've got the guards who can shoot the threes. They got a center who can run. They got a center who's really got great footwork in the post. I'd like to see Aaliyah make a few more of those easy shots, but she is one of the best centers in the league. So they don't need a superstar. They need to shore up their depth for sure. They're absolutely short on the bench. But again, if Saxton can fill that type of role as one of the bigs, and again, they could trade Melissa Smith, and they don't need like I've talked about Melissa Smith's talent, but they don't need to get equal value back for Melissa Smith. They don't need a star for Melissa Smith. They don't need to package and mortgage the future of, Grace Berger and the draft pick along with Melissa Smith to get a star. If they can get something of quality off the bench, a player that can give them a little flexibility, that can get them 10, 20 minutes off the bench, that is all they're going to need, and they can give up Melissa Smith for that because we all know she is simply a hot mess in Indiana. So we'll see how that goes, but I wanted to get this out pretty quickly and kind of go over some of the things because a lot obviously happened in free agency with the WNBA just recently. Wanted to let you all know to relax and breathe that Kelsey Mitchell is returning to the Indiana Fever. We'll see what happens next. I have no doubt they're probably going to make some moves, but I don't know. And look, hey man, I could be doing another video tomorrow about this blockbuster trade, but my point I'm making is they don't need that in order to be a title contender. So we'll see how it goes. Let me know your thoughts on all this. Kelsey Mitchell resigning, Griner to Atlanta. What does that mean? Could the Fever sign Tina Charles as a backup center for Aaliyah Boston? That would be some nice depth. That's the type of thing that I'm talking about. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well. I really do appreciate it, and we will talk to you later.